In the dark, dank basement of an old apartment building, there was a barber shop that had seen better days. A faded red carpet runner led to an ancient leather chair, its surface scarred with countless memories of men who had sat in its embrace. In the flickering light of the lone bulb hanging overhead, you could see dust motes dancing in the still air, each one a tiny speck of history. And then there was the barber, an ageless man with hands like gnarled roots and eyes that held the wisdom of ages past. His name was Old Tom, and he wasn't just a barber. He was a keeper of secrets, a silent observer of the city's underbelly. The door creaked open, and a young man stepped in, his face drawn and haggard. "Tom," he said, his voice raspy. "Give me a shave." Tom didn't answer. He didn't need to. Decades of experience had honed his intuition to razor sharpness. He knew this man's story without needing to hear it. The tremble in his hands, the haunted look in his eyes, the expensive suit that was suddenly out of place. Tom had seen it all before. He dipped the brush into a bowl of warm water and lathered it over the man's face. As the cool water hit his skin, the young man relaxed slightly, the tension easing from his shoulders. It was just another Tuesday for Tom, but for the young man it was a lifeline, an escape from the scrutiny of the world. In the privacy of the barber shop, he could shed his facade, become someone else, at least for a little while. When the blade touched his neck, the first stroke sent a jolt through him. It wasn't pain, but something akin to fear, a primal response that made him tense up. Tom paused, his weathered hand hovering over the man's throat. "Easy," he said, his voice a low rumble. "It's just a shave." But the young man couldn't help himself. He flinched away, the instinct to survive overriding any desire for comfort. Tom sighed. He had dealt with his share of nervous customers, but this one was different. There was a darkness in his eyes, a story of sorrow and sin that the shave brush couldn't scrub away. With a gentle touch, Tom resumed his work, his movements slow and deliberate. Every stroke was a lullaby, a soothing balm to the raw nerves of the young man's soul. The scrape of the blade on the stubble was the only sound that filled the small shop, punctuated by the occasional sigh of the customer as tension ebbed away. As the shave progressed, Tom's eyes, sharp as a hawk's, never left the young man's face. He saw the flicker of pain, the wince that was quickly masked. He saw the way the man's hands clenched and unclenched, betraying the turmoil within. Each nick of the blade brought a fresh wave of anxiety, a reminder of past wounds that refused to heal, and then it happened. Just as Tom reached the most sensitive part of the man's face, he felt it, a sudden surge of power. The young man tensed, his eyes rolling back in his head as if in pain. For a moment, Tom hesitated, unsure of what to do. Then, guided by instinct and years of experience, he pressed on. As the blade glided over the man's jawline, something extraordinary occurred. The young man gasped, not in pain, but in realization. His face, normally smooth and unblemished, was now covered in a thick, dark beard. Tom stared, his own beard bristling in surprise. He had seen many transformations in his time as a barber, but this was something else entirely. The young man looked down at his hands, then back at Tom. His eyes were wide with wonder, a childlike innocence replacing the earlier torment. In that moment, Tom understood. This wasn't just a change in appearance, it was a shedding of identity, a desperate attempt to escape a life that had become too unbearable to face. The young man stood up, his newfound beard obscuring the haunted look in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice strangely distant. "I needed this." And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving Tom alone in the dimly lit barber shop. The silence was deafening. The only sound was the ticking of the old clock on the wall, its pendulum swinging like a judge's gavel, marking the passage of time that could never be reclaimed. What had just happened? The question echoed in the small room, bouncing off the dusty mirrors and settling on Tom's resolute shoulders. He had seen enough in his lifetime to understand the weight of secrets, the burden they carried. This young man, whoever he was, had come to him not just for a shave, but for a chance to reinvent himself, to hide from the world that had dealt him a harsh hand. And Tom had obliged. It was his unspoken oath to his customers to be more than just a barber. To be a confidant, a counselor, a silent guardian of their darkest moments. The thought of the young man out there, bearded and anonymous, brought a strange sense of peace to Tom. Perhaps now he could walk a little taller, his face a shield against the prying eyes of judgment. Maybe now he wouldn't be the tormented soul Tom had seen in the mirror, but just another face in the crowd. As the hours passed, more customers trickled in, seeking not just Tom's barbering skills, but his unique brand of solace. There was the tired businessman, the young lover, the aging gangster. Each had their own story, their own demons to confront. And Tom listened, or rather saw, for he was a master of reading faces, a human kaleidoscope. A loud bang at the door startled him from his thoughts. He looked up to see a tall, imposing figure silhouetted against the dim light spilling out from the crack beneath the door. "Tom, I presume," a deep voice boomed. "I'm here about the boy who was here earlier." Tom nodded, his gaze unwavering. "He's gone," he said simply. The man frowned, his bulk filling the doorway. "That's no good. I need to speak with him." Tom stood up, his joints protesting. "He isn't here, and frankly, it's none of your business why he came here." The man's eyes narrowed. "I can smell fear on him, the same scent that clings to you, old man. Where is he?" Tom's grip tightened on the worn handle of his barber chair. He knew fear well, had wrestled with it in the shadows of his youth. But this man's fear was different. It reeked of desperation, of a life lived on the edge of sanity. "Leave," Tom growled, his voice surprisingly strong. "Leave and don't come back, or next time the chair won't be the only thing you'll find yourself strapped to." The man paused, considering Tom's defiance. He took a step closer, his face contorted in a sneer. "You think you can hide him from me? Think again." With that, he turned and strode out, slamming the door behind him. Tom sank back into his chair, his hands shaking. He knew this man knew the darkness that lurked in his soul. The last time this man had visited, one of Tom's customers hadn't left, hadn't been able to. The memory of that night still haunted his dreams. Now he hoped he'd made the right call. Could the young man withstand the relentless pursuit of a man like that? Tom didn't know. All he could do was trust that the shave had given him some measure of anonymity, some breathing room in the suffocating darkness. As the evening deepened, the bell above the door chimed, announcing another customer. Tom looked up, expecting to see another weary traveler in need of solace. But when he saw who it was, his heart skipped a beat. It was the young man from earlier, the one who had come for a shave. But now his face was bare, the beard from earlier nowhere to be seen. He looked different. Somehow lighter, the torment in his eyes replaced by a flicker of hope. He smiled, a small, tentative smile, like he was tasting something new. "Do it again," he said, his voice hoarse but clear. "Lather, razor, the works. I need it again." And as Tom reached for the brush, he knew that in that small, dank barber shop, they were both getting more than just a shave. They were sharing a secret, a pact sealed in the flickering gaslight, a testament to the healing power of anonymity.